if you want to support the show, any of the shows, either this or whichever show, I'm not on right now because this is just a blanket ad for all of them, and the website, you can go to bewareofspoilers.com. In the description for any of the episodes of Beware of Spoilers, there is the option to donate. If you don't want to donate that way, you can donate directly through the website. We do have that, mwpnews.com. And if you don't want to support that way, then going to mwpnews.com will help out because we have ads there. We don't want to keep it, where there's a lot of ads. There's a few ads. But the point is we want to make it so that way, we can sustain this for the long term. If people donate, we're never going to paywall anything, I don't think, as of right now. But if people, start donating, we'll start doing cooler and cooler stuff. Like donations are how we get to cover stuff like Tribeca and other, film festivals. And, we may be able to bring on more people to help out. So if you want to help out the show and you want more content from us, by all means, even just going and giving us a 5-star rating on Spotify helps out a lot. But that's it. That's the only ad we'll have on the podcast ever. But here's whatever podcast you're going to be listening to. Good afternoon, and welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. And we're here today to talk about the big news that broke yesterday, which is we've been waiting for news on this for quite some time. How many times can I say news in the same thing before it loses all value as a word? We've been waiting for this for quite some time. Who is going to direct Spider-Man 4? The long-awaited fourth Spider-Man movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Because contractually, we have one more Spider-Man movie and one more non-Spider-Man appearance in the MCU. So, let's start out with the basics. What's it called? What are we doing with this Spider-Man movie? We know now it's going to be, and it makes a little bit of sense considering what we have. I mean, look, not just, the fact that the Russos are doing Doomsday, but Destin Daniel Cretton was supposed to be doing Kang Dynasty when that was going to be Avengers 5. Now that Kang Dynasty is no longer Avengers 5, the question is, what's Destin Daniel Cretton working on next? And we now know, besides the Naruto movie, it's going to be Spider-Man 4. So, he's doing this, and I think that's probably for the best, because for what Shang-Chi was, it was somewhat grounded. It's still, even though you're dealing with some kind of mythical creatures, especially toward the end in the third act, by and large, before that, a lot of the movie feels relatively grounded. Which is good, because that's what I want from a Spider-Man movie. I don't want another multiverse movie. That's the last thing I need. I understand that there's going to be a temptation, and I'm going to be honest, I would be utterly shocked if this movie was anything besides a multiverse movie that has a return of at least one, if not both, of the alternate universe Peter Parkers. I would be absolutely shocked if that was the case. That said, I don't entirely know if I'm in favor of this decision, and I think it's likely we get this movie in 2026 now. But I think that this is going to be kind of if you're expecting street level, I wouldn't settle yourself in too much for that. I think that we're at a point now where Spider-Man has crossed the Rubicon for lack of a better word, and is now, and is now bigger than your standard street level, your standard street level hero. Not that he is above and beyond what we would expect from him, but it's just, he's so big as a character that I don't think you can really expect Sony to hold him back and only use him in that way. Especially when you take into consideration the state of where Sony is as a studio. Sony is not exactly in the best place, I don't want to say financially, because they still have a lot of money coming in and they have a lot of things going on, but on the studio side of things, Sony is not exactly the best situated of the major studios. Any attempt they have at a major franchise kind of falls flat, including their attempts to do Spider-Man adjacent movies. Like this year we have Venom still, and we have Kraven. But after that, we don't have anything else from this, side universe of characters that is going to make a lot of money. Or is in development. I think there's that Nicolas Cage Spider-Man Noir show they're working on. But, again, I think you're barking up the wrong thing when you go into streaming. I don't think streaming is necessarily this, the financial gains that you're looking for that you can get from a theatrical release. I think fundamentally what we're looking at here with Sony is that this is their golden goose. Because they tried Men in Black. That didn't work. They haven't had a, They haven't had a 21 Jump Street movie in quite some time. Those made a lot of money for them, and they're relatively cheap. Ghostbusters has been, at best, breaking even each time they make one. And the quality has not been great. Afterlife is not great, Frozen Empire is not great. Hopefully we're at the end of this, and they're just going to kind of let Ghostbusters rest. I don't think we really need more of these. But look, Sony needs some franchise. They don't have a franchise besides Spider-Man at this point. And I think that the point is, they need to get this off the ground and running, and I think that a lot of this comes from, again, we've talked about this a lot on this show. Hollywood is very risk-averse right now. There is a lack of desire to get into things that are not the most immediate and obvious examples of how to make money. I think that Sony has a deep bench of IP they can play with. Sony has a very deep bench of IP they can play with. They can, they have all of their IP from the video game side of things. And if you put the heart and the care into making those that you do making some of the games, look at The Last of Us, even Twisted Metal wasn't terrible. The Super Mario movie was good. There's enough. The video game space is something that you could very easily dip into as long as you do it right. And I think the issue is, it's look, let's sit here and let's talk about where you go with Spider-Man. And one of the things is, everything that comes from risk averseness eventually gets tired very quickly. Because you have an unwillingness to try anything new. And an unwillingness to engage your audience on a level beyond, look at this. Look at how cool this looks. And eventually, audience will get tired of that. Because someone else will come along and do it better. Right now, the idea to do another John Wick movie is, because we have the ballerina next year with Ana de Armas, the idea to do another John Wick movie is smart, because Lionsgate makes a lot of money whenever they put out one of these John Wick movies, because they're good. But the thing is, think about where Chad Stahelski was when he directed the first one. He was not the established name he is now. He was a very strong action director who did a lot of work on some Marvel movies, and if you watch The Hunger Games and then watch Catching Fire, you can see when he came in, because the action's a lot better from Catching Fire on, and he was the action director, or second unit director. I'm sorry, that was his. I think his role was second unit director. But when you look at, you could tell the action is a lot better choreographed and a lot better shot when you have him behind the camera. And therein kind of lies my question here, where it's like, okay, so what do you do if you're Sony? Because I don't think Marvel wants to inherently tie Spider-Man as deeply into the big cosmic stuff as Sony does. But Sony, at the end of the day, has the keys to the car. Like, it's up to Sony to do it. All that Marvel Studios has to do, like, Marvel Studios is co-producing it, and Sony gets the benefit of it being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they're splitting the production cost. Like, that all makes sense. The issue is you end up in a situation where it's like, why is this a thing? Like, at the end of the day, if we have a second multiverse movie with Spider-Man, the question is why? Like, Spider-Man 4 could very easily be Avengers Doomsday and a half. And let me explain. Next year is going to be a big year for the MCU. We have Captain America Brave New World, we have Fantastic Four First Steps, and, which I hate that name, I don't know, I'm not a fan of that name, and we have the Thunderbolts. Then the year after, and we also have next year, Daredevil. And Daredevil is continuing this kind of setup we've had over the course of a few shows of what Fisk is doing in Manhattan. I think what you could do, and have this work very well for Spider-Man, and have this be the kind of middle ground that Marvel and Sony are looking for, is have Spider-Man 4 be kind of the street-level Avengers movie. Where it's like, look, Spider-Man wants to get his life back, or Peter Parker wants to get his life back after he gave it up, and now Fisk is now mayor of New York. And if Fisk is mayor of New York, or anything like that, like, it would be cool to see, like, a street-level team-up of, like, okay, we're going to team up Spider-Man, we're going to team up Daredevil, we're going to team up Jessica Jones, the Punisher. Like, all of these characters are going to be in one big thing. And I think that's why they brought on Destin Daniel Cretton for this, is because he was going to do an Avengers movie. Like, they had him before. Like, I think his departure from Kang Dynasty is not related to anything he did. I think his departure from Kang Dynasty comes 100% from Robert Downey Jr. demanding the Russos come back. Because that was one of his demands. Like, look, if I come back to do Doomsday and Secret Wars and be Doctor Doom, I want the Russos back. And at the end of the day, if that's the case, and you're Feige, you're like, well, we're already backing the money truck up to him to pay him this small nation's GDP amount of money to come back and play himself. Like, yeah, like, if we're gonna do that anyway, fuck it, just go with it. Like, we'll get the directors you want. We will find a way to bring the Russos back. And again, I said it when they initially made the announcement, like, I want to see Marcus and McFeely come back too, and I think one of them definitely is. Because, like, look, the movies are very well shot. They look great. I do think we need, that the secret sauce to especially Infinity War, more so than Endgame, is the script. And the script is fantastic for that movie. But look, looking at this whole situation, I think that this is a good choice if they're going with this more, not cosmic, but this big, grand Spider-Man 4. Like, I don't think we get a reunion again of Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in this movie. I think that was not something we necessarily need. I think that this is something where we get Spider-Man's going to show up, and this is going to be they could do either Young Avengers or street level, or like, I don't think they would call it, like, if it was called, like, Spider-Man Marvel Knights, like, instant day one, I'd, like, that'd be the perfect way to do it. Like, you can't do it like Spider-Man: The Defenders, and I think that at this point, once you've gotten through Trilogy 1, you kind of drop the home convention. Because it's like Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, because he's left, and then Spider-Man No Way Home, because number one, when the movie starts, he's on the run, and number two, when the movie ends, he no longer exists, and he doesn't have, and he doesn't have anyone anymore. Like, I think that if you're gonna do this, you're gonna start. You're not gonna do home in the convention, unless it's like. Well, I mean, the last one was at Christmas, and they didn't call it home for the holidays. But like, I think it'd be a bad decision to continue the home convention. But I think you just do it Spider-Man Marvel Nights and just say this is going to be, we're going to culminate the Mayor Fisk storyline we've been building towards. That's going to culminate here in this Spider-Man movie, and be like, Daredevil's going to show up, and just start slowly talking about who's going to be in this movie. And I think the only issue I have is that I would have liked to have had Yelena. I mean, look, I don't think you even need Yelena. If it's in New York, like, I think you could do this movie with Ms. Marvel, and I think you can merge Young Avengers and this. Because I think if I'm going to do the team for this movie, thinking about how I would handle this, and if you're going to do something that's going to get people together, I think it's got to be Fisk. So I think you got to have Punisher, you got to have Daredevil, you got to have Spider-Man, obviously, he's the title character. So there's three right there. I think you go Ms. Marvel, because her dad just appeared in the Daredevil trailer. I think Ms. Marvel is an easy one there. I think you go Kate Bishop, Hawkeye. That's 5. And then you go, if you want to do 6, you do probably Jessica Jones. You know what? No, not Jessica Jones. Let's go Luke Cage. Or both. Why not? Why not both? But look, I think that this is there is potential here where this could be like all-time great for Marvel Studios if this works out correctly. And I think there's going to be a lot of moving parts here that are going to be variables that they need to figure out. But kind of like the recipe to success for the last Marvel movie for Spider-Man was, let's take all the things that you've liked in the past and merge them together and put them all into one big thing. So it's like, here are the Spider-Men you like, here are the villains you like, here's all of that cool stuff. So why don't we do that with, the street level heroes and some of the younger heroes? Like, you can bring in Cassie Lang. Like, if you really wanted. Like, this could be I think this merging Young Avengers and Marvel Knights is probably the way to go, and just handle Mayor Fisk. Because number one, I want to see Spider-Man face off against Vincent D'Onofrio. Like, if we get through if we get through a Marvel Cinematic Universe that has Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, he's just phenomenal in that role. I love him in that role, and he is like, it's one of those things where it's like, anytime he shows up, I'm like, fuck yes, let's go. Like, I didn't like Hawkeye for most of the run, but like, you can guarantee, if you go back and listen to the episode where I talked about it, I'm beware of spoilers at the end, where it's like, yeah, there's the Kingpin, and it's just Vincent D'Onofrio. I'm like, fuck yes, let's go. Next week's gonna be great. And then Echo, I loved Echo. Like, that Daredevil show is so good. I want these characters showing up wherever possible. And I think that if you're going to bring in Destin Daniel Cretton, this is why you're doing it. You want to do, like, look, we promised you an Avengers movie. I know we promised you an Avengers movie. Here is you're going to do the Avengers movie for the street level characters. And I think it's just going to be a merge of Young Avengers and Marvel Knights. Where you take a little column A, a little column B, and then just merge them all together, and they're going to be dealing with, Fisk. How you handle that more logistically, that's a good question, because I think if you're going to do a team of this size, and I think we'll get a better sense of that next May once we see how Thunderbolts works, because that's going to be kind of an interesting situation where it's like, Are they all just going to be fighting Hyperion? Or no, not Hyperion, Sentry. I don't think so. Like, and I don't, like, if that's going to be what this is, like, how does that work? How does that logistically work? And then, like, what kind, like, one of the things, like, I think we've started to move away from this, but one of the things we've seen a lot of is the idea that when you have a team up, you gotta have, like, an army of something for everyone to fight, so there's something for everyone to do. I mean, not really, because it's like every Avengers movie has, like, the general who's the bad guy, and then his army of minions. And it's like, I think if you're Fisk, like, I think if you're gonna do this, I think you gotta have, like, Fisk's army of the underworld, of the criminal underworld, not like the undead, and then just have that kind of be what they're dealing with. Or if you go with the Mayor Fisk plotline, where you have it where the heroes are kind of banned, that could be an interesting situation too. If it's illegal to be a superhero in New York, and you have all these characters who are vigilantes, well, that could be, great. That would be a great thing to try and do. And that's the other thing, too, is that this gives you an in to bring back J. Jonah Jameson, because if you make the focal point of the movie them trying to figure out who is Spider-Man, especially in a world where Peter Parker no longer exists, theoretically, like, it creates an interesting situation. And look, the disappointment here is that this is going to shaft Ned and MJ. I do think that we've kind of run its course with the Ned story. I don't need too much more Ned, I don't think. Oh, America. Why can't America be in this movie, too? Yeah, there's plenty to happen here. There's plenty going on here that I think would be really interesting. I think I've talked myself into this idea very well. But yeah, Spider-Man, I mean, if it's shooting next year, I think we're looking at a 2026 shoot, 2026 release. So is that too much to have 3 big crossover movies in 2 years for Marvel Studios? We'll see. I don't think so, but I think that may be what we're looking at. And I'm probably wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of things in this regard. I was talking about the potential Blade cancellation, but I'm out of time because I'm getting to work. So we'll talk about that another time. But until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.